What's going on, everybody? I am Winston Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is the Blerd Breakdown, the pop culture show that lets you know what happened was. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you know every time I'm putting out new content, man. I did a Scream 2 trailer reaction earlier today, and now I'm going to get you all caught up on all of the news that's been going on in the pop culture world. A lot of nerdy stuff for you, some sports stuff. We're going to cover it all, and obviously show some love to Fatman Scoop, who is no longer with us, unfortunately. But with all that, I'm going to jump right into it so we can get into the nitty gritty, man. I know y'all been waiting all day to hear what's been going on, so let's get to it, man. First story up, Josh Brolin has been rumored to have been offered the role of Hal Jordan in the DCU Lantern series, and reportedly, it looks like the DCU is looking for a much younger John Stewart with both Damson Idris and Aaron Pierre potentially in the mix. This is from Comic Book Movie and Mark Cassidy, and the story as is. We had heard that a noteworthy name was being sought to play veteran Green Lantern Hal Jordan in the upcoming DCU Lantern series, and a new rumor is claiming that the studio has set its sights on a former MCU actor for the role. According to Nexus Point News, who have broken some pretty big DC-related scoops over the past few weeks, Josh Brolin has been offered the part, though the site notes that he hasn't actually entered talks and might well decline. Now, Brolin is no stranger to the comic book movie superhero genre, having played both Thanos in the Infinity Saga and Cable in Deadpool 2. He has also technically played a DC character in a much maligned Jonah Hex movie. Now, Hal Jordan was previously played by Ryan Reynolds in the infamous 2011 Green Lantern movie that nobody talks about. We also have an update on the age range of the actors being looked into to play John Stewart, as well as a couple of up-and-coming stars who might just be in contention. Fans appear to be somewhat divided on Brolin at 56, potentially suiting up as Jordan, but it seems the studio is looking for a much younger actor to play the less experienced ring-slinging hero that he takes under his wing. According to Jeff Snyder, someone younger than 30, or at least able to play younger than 30, is being sought. Now, fans have noticed that comic book writer Tom King, who is working on the show, has started following both Damson Idris from Snowfall and Aaron Pierre from Rebel Ridge on social media, leading to speculation that they might be in the mix to play John Stewart. Now, not much to go on, admittedly, but they are two highly sought-after young actors, so we'd have no problem believing that James Gunn and Peter Safran would be interested in locking either one of them down for this role. Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner, who will make his debut in Gunn's Superman reboot, is expected to have a supporting role in the series. The Emmy Award-winning Lost and Watchmen creator Damon Lindelof is working on the pilot script along with Ozark showrunner Chris Mundy and acclaimed comic book writer Tom King, as mentioned previously. Production on Lanterns is currently set to commence in Q1 of 2025 in the UK, potentially putting the show on track for a 2026 release. An earlier Green Lantern TV series was in the works before Gunn and Safran showed up to take over as co-heads of DC Studios. That version was created by Greg Berlanti and would have starred Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner. This story of a couple Green Lanterns, John Stewart and Hal Jordan, Gunn said of the project when it was first announced, we have a few other Lanterns peppered in there, but this is really a terrestrial-based TV show, which is almost like True Detective with a couple of Green Lanterns who are space cops watching over Precinct Earth. In it, they discover a terrifying mystery that ties to a larger story in the DCU. Okay, so let's talk about it, man. I love the idea of either Damon or Aaron as selections for John Stewart. I think those are two very talented actors, and I think would fit the role exceptionally well. I'm going to be probably a little more partial, I think, to Damon in this particular case for a number of reasons. I think one of them, a lot of people may not understand this one way or the other, but also just from like kind of a colorism standpoint. John Stewart is typically depicted as a darker-skinned black man, and so Damon being of that darker hue and both of them being equally talented as actors, I'm going to lean more towards that because I think we need to normalize that. Like, I love all the work that's been done, for example, with Storm, but same thing. Storm tends to be drawn and has introduced as a darker-skinned black character, and we've gotten a lot of light-skinned Storms, all light-skinned Storms so far. And that's not to say that Halle Berry and Alexander Shipp didn't do incredible jobs. They did. But just in the nature of keeping a character kind of closer core to its roots, we can have a full conversation about colorism later. You can go on YouTube and look all that up. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have talked about it one way or the other. Jay and I have made jokes about that back and forth, but there's some real truth to the matter of that. And I think trying to keep it closer to the source material would be a little better in that regard. But I think they're both incredible actors. If either one of them gets it, I wouldn't be upset about that one way or the other. As far as Brolin, Brolin is incredibly talented, but I don't like this casting. Not because he couldn't do it. I definitely think that he could. And if you're also going for a much older Hal Jordan in that regard, I also don't mind that either. I don't like it because it's like, let's give somebody else a chance, I guess. This man has played Thanos, the most infamous villain in all of superhero comics. He's played Cable. And as we mentioned before, he was in Jonah Hex, even though Jonah Hex wasn't very good. He's done a lot of stuff. So I would just like someone else to get a legitimate shot. It'd be one thing if he wasn't successful at it, or if it hasn't carried over, it's been maligned. Like, obviously we mentioned the previous Hal Jordan, Ryan Reynolds. That did not go over very well. So, but he found the right role for him in Deadpool, like the perfect role for him in Deadpool. You know, I think Ben Affleck's probably done with superheroes, but I think that, you know, he did a much better job as Batman. I didn't love the DCEU personally, but as far as what he brought to the role, I did enjoy a lot. I think if you were doing this as a means to try and get something working out better, Chris Evans being another one. I mean, I did like his Johnny Storm a lot, but he was made to be Captain America. If that's what we were talking about, I would be on board. But again, Brolin's done plenty. And I don't think he needs to do this again. Now, if he just wants to do the project, like, I'm not going to hate him for it, but I genuinely think this is the type of stuff that can put somebody into another stratosphere. That's why, like, you know, Corn Sweat, like, being Superman, I think is really cool because it takes a young actor and gives him this opportunity to go into, like, another place. I know there's another actor in the Superman movie. I can't remember. He's an older gentleman who's been doing, like, bit roles here and there most of his life, but then is, like, I want to say he's playing either, like, Otis or Perry or something like that, but that's the type of bigger role that can really change your life. You know what I'm saying? So there's no disrespect to Josh Brolin whatsoever. He's fantastic. Everybody's been quoting Thanos since Thanos, you know, got snapped away, you know, off of his own game plan. But I would like to see somebody else get that opportunity. But I'm curious what you think. You think Brolin's the way to go? Do you agree with me that it's somebody else? What about Jon Stewart? Do you have any casting options that you like personally? Let me know in the comments, man. All right, let's move on to the next one. James Gunn responded to yesterday's rumors that Chris Pratt might be in the DCU. He says, we talk about it all the time. This is also comic book movie and Mark Cassidy. James Gunn has responded to yesterday's rumor that Guardians of the Galaxy star Chris Pratt might be in line for a role in the DCU. The DC Studios co-CEO was asked if Pratt was in negotiations for a part in the rebooted franchise and confirmed that he speaks to his friend about it all the time. This shouldn't be taken as confirmation that Pratt is officially in talks for any specific character, but it seems clear that some ideas have been tossed around at the very least. Pratt was asked about the possibility of joining the new DCU in a recent interview, and he said, well, there's always a chance, he told TMZ, but of course, I wouldn't be able to spoil it here on the sidewalk with you. I could, but I better not, man. I just have to leave that to the fans and people like James to decide. I'm not exactly sure. I'm truly not sure. Yes, of course, if I can fit it into my schedule and it makes sense, he added when asked if he'd be interested in a DCU role. Gunn was also asked about his Guardians of the Galaxy cast members potentially jumping ship to the DCU and pretty much confirmed that at least one of his former collaborators is already on board. If you had the chance to cast any of the Guardians of the Galaxy stars in the DC universe, who would you cast them as? A fan asked on Threads. Gunn responded, well, that would be a spoiler, wouldn't it? Gunn was also asked about another recent rumor that Booster Gold is set for a surprise appearance in Superman and shot that one down. Which DC character, if any, would you most like to see Chris Pratt play? Now, this was the tweet that exchange that happened, or I guess it's the thread exchange, excuse me. Can't really tell anymore. You know, this Pratt rumor have anything to it? I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, he's a close friend. We talk about it all the time. So yeah, that was kind of what was going on there. And again, I genuinely hope. I hope that Chris Pratt, if he wants to get in it, I know that sounds weird that's very counterintuitive what I was just saying about Josh Brolin, but I would prefer if he were to come in that it not necessarily be, you know, a big role, that it be something that fits him, but maybe a villain role or, you know, something That's pretty different, but I don't want him to be necessarily the focal point, and that's no disrespect to Chris Pratt whatsoever. Again, talented actor. This is just that vehicle that takes people to the next level, because before Star-Lord, essentially what was going on was he was, Andy Dwyer from Parks and Rec, which was great, but like he genuinely he has gotten to that level of fame now. He doesn't need that anymore. And again, there's a lot of really talented actors that could do that. Now, people are going to say, okay, well, I saw you on Capes and Cows. You're totally fine with Gunn putting his brother and everything. Sure, but he doesn't put his brother at the center of every movie. He does have a good role for his brother, but he's not out here being the center. Hal Jordan would be one of two faces, literally one of the two leads of the Lantern show. So that to me is the difference. If Chris wants to come in and he is a villain in a movie, if he is kind of a support, like a Nick Fury type situation or something like that, like if something that fits in that regard, I'd be super on board for it. But like, I don't want to hear about him being Batman. I don't want to hear about him being, I'm pretty sure Kumail Nanjiani is Booster Gold at this point. That's what we've kind of heard from different stories. I don't want to even hear that he's Booster Gold at this point. I know I had said initially that I'd be down for that, but I wouldn't. I don't think that would work super well for me, just because this is a vehicle for people to be able to get to that next level. No knocking on their talent, just on that mentality. But again, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking and feeling. Let's get to the next one. All right, y'all. So Spider-Man 4 is on the way, but Jon Watts is talking to a number of people to let them know, specifically here, The Hollywood Reporter, as to why he's not going to be directing Spider-Man 4. This is Josh Wilding from Comic Book Movie that covered this. Jon Watts cut his teeth on indie movies like Clown and Cop Car, but his big break came when Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures tapped him to helm 2017 Spider-Man Homecoming. He'd later returned for Spider-Man Far From Home in 2019 and Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021, with the latter presenting more than its fair share of challenges thanks to the pandemic. Still, the threequel was a massive hit, and Watts was announced as the director of Fantastic Four, only to walk away from the project months later. Now, the untitled Spider-Man 4, which is expected to be released between Doomsday and Secret Wars, the next two Avenger films, finds itself without a director because Watts will not return to helm the Wall Crawler's next adventure. Talking to Hollywood Reporter, the filmmaker broke his silence on moving on from the MCU by admitting he's all too aware that following Spider-Man No Way Home will be near impossible. It was such a specific moment in time, and the reaction to the movie was just so unbelievable, he says, explaining he came to the realization that it's never going to be like this ever again. After working on Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Watts has focused on Wolves, a new action comedy starring George Clooney and Brad Pitt as two rival fixers forced to work together. Sometimes you do an action movie and all the fun stuff is given to the second unit director, he says. On the Marvel movies, you split up the work because there's so much to be done. Rarely do you get the Christopher Nolan opportunity to do all of it. On this one, I was like, I want to shoot every single shot. While it's easy to read between the lines here to see that Watts is enjoying his freedom outside of the confines of the MCU, it seems his reason for not directing Spider-Man 4 or Fantastic Four First Steps is because, when all is said and done, these aren't his characters. I was just getting started and Marvel came along, and I take full creative ownership over all those films, but Spider-Man is always going to be Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's creation, he says. This was the chance for me to go back to my voice and my vision and my style. Wolves is mine, and that's a really good feeling. Doesn't seem like there are any hard feelings, though, because it was back in July when Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige said, "We love John. John did 3 of the best Spider-Man films ever for us. He's got lots of things going on now, so we'll probably be looking for somebody else just because he's busy." So, who do you want to see direct Spider-Man 4? Let's talk about it. I love John saying that. I did have a conversation with y'all a little bit previously about like actors doing different stuff. So like Elizabeth Olsen, the idea that she's not necessarily walking away from Scarlet Witch forever, even though, in canon right now she's dead, though, we got Secret Wars, sure, variants coming up, or maybe some magic where she's still alive, whatever. She's too vital to the X-Men. But the idea of her playing, Vision's bride, I believe Vivian, that actually might be the daughter though. Either way, the idea that she would be playing a different character, that she's not necessarily done with, the whole franchise, but it'd be a different character. Now, again, the difference there, that the wife character to Vision, the synthesoid that she makes, for those that did go and read Tom King's Vision story, is not around permanently. It is really around for that story. So I would believe that the Vision Quest show would be something similar. So again, we're not looking at a situation where Elizabeth Olsen is coming in and taking another lead role and taking all, away an opportunity from someone else. It is a situation where it would just be another smaller bit thing kind of going on. And I think that in and of itself is just very different. And she's been doing other movies as well to get away from that. I understand John Watts doing the same thing. One, who's trying to live up to that hype of No Way Home again? Like, almost $2 billion. It was like $1.95 billion. Real talk, the only reason, in my opinion, that I'm not saying the Russos can't do it with these next couple Avengers films, but like, those were like the end of a generation set of films that were essentially two films packed into one, 10, 11 years worth of content coming together. They can potentially do it with Doomsday and Secret Wars, and I'm sure it will easily pass $1 billion. Probably $1.5 billion, so you're sitting somewhere in the range of $1.5 billion to $2 billion. But I understand what John is saying about like making a film that epic and not wanting to live up to that expectation, but also to have your own like characters, to have your own creativity be at the focal point of your art and not always doing somebody else's IP, to do your own IP. I respect the hell out of that, man. So, if we get John Watts back at some point in the MCU, that would be awesome. Maybe even, if James Gunn wants to hire him to do something with the DCU, that would be really cool too. But I like to see that he's off to something else. And as far as who I'd want to see direct the next Spider-Man film, I haven't really thought on it. I would have to take like a step back and think about what young director or just director in general I feel like would be good with it. I know most of the movies that she does tends to be more female-led centric films, but I think as Greta has proven that, she can get like some basic action sequences as we saw in Barbie and whatnot, and how entertaining Barbie was. I could potentially see her, if she wanted to tackle something like this, that would be a very interesting thing for me. But not a first choice. That's just somebody off the top of my head. I, again, would have to think about it. So who knows? Maybe I'll come back. We'll talk about it again and I can get it. But I want to know what you think in the comments. Let me know who you would like to see. And let's get on to this next story. So, WandaVision star Elizabeth Olsen, who we were just speaking on, was talking about why she didn't offer any advice to Natasha Lyonne, who is going to be in the new Fantastic Four. This is also Josh Wilding with Comic Book Movie. Understandably, many actors think twice before joining a franchise as huge as the MCU. However, even amid seemingly endless talks of superhero fatigue, some realize that getting into business with Marvel Studios can be a wise career move. Orange is the New Black and Russian Doll star Natasha Lyonne recently boarded the cast of the Fantastic Four First Steps in a mystery role. She'll next be seen alongside MCU vet Elizabeth Olsen and Netflix's His Three Daughters, but did the Scarlet Witch actor offer her co-star any advice? Talking to Total Film, Olsen explains why she didn't find that necessary. No, she needs no advice, the WandaVision star admitted. She can handle her own in the world. She's a very tough broad. She knows she can navigate any situation, I think. She's one of the smartest people I've ever met, Carrie Coon, who played Proxima Midnight in Infinity War and Endgame and What If, chimed in to say. Lyonne is no stranger to superhero movies after previously playing Summerfield, a member of the Night Stalkers in Blade Trinity. It's funny, when you're a writer, the creator, the director, and the star, and you have 13 nominations or whatever, it's not like, here's a bunch of Marvel movies, Lyonne said last year of the impact Russian Doll success has had on her career. In fact, they're like, oh, now we see you as potentially intimidating. I don't even mean anything to Marvel, she added, and it could be unintentional. I think a lot of it is people trying to be generous, almost saying, oh, I didn't know you'd want to do that kind of thing. Like, you created Pen 15. Why would you want to? And I don't know those ladies personally, but I don't suddenly see them on billboards all over the city for rom-coms or whatever. Lyonne's role remains a mystery to us, though many fans are convinced she's either playing Herbie or Alicia Masters. Nothing has been confirmed as we write this, so we'll just have to wait and see. Pedro Pascal obviously is Mr. Fantastic. Vanessa Kirby is Invisible Woman. Joseph Quinn is the Human Torch. Eben Moss-Bachrach is the Thing. Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, and Natasha Lyonne are all in mystery roles. The movie is set to be released in July of 2025. Okay. I think, again, in this particular situation, I think that it's really cool that Natasha's getting this opportunity to do that. You know, you do want like stars to come in and take big roles, but I think a lot of the fun is seeing a Simu Liu come in and be Shang-Chi and his career take off, or to see Chadwick Boseman, same thing, like his career just absolutely taking off in that regard. So I just think that like it's one of those things that is really cool to let these roles kind of uplift people like that. Now, I know people are going to say, well, then why is Pedro Pascal being put in as Mr. Fantastic, you know, and even Vanessa Kirby? I would argue Pedro, at that point, you're like, okay, we maybe want a veteran actor to help lead this whole thing. And then, you know, Vanessa obviously is very talented and a lot of work, but, you know, this definitely put her in a household name category for people that aren't familiar with, like, maybe have seen her face, but aren't familiar with her name. Same thing with Quinn, and then same thing with Evan Moss. Like, he's killing in The Bear, but again, this is the type of thing that puts you in a different stratosphere after that. As far as who I think Natasha is playing, I think that they're probably spot on with Alicia Masters. I think that that's actually a really good role for her. I think that I would love to see her in another kind of romantic role. Like, I enjoyed what she did with Orange is the New Black, though that obviously is a very different kind of scenario and how that was set up, obviously. But it'll be cool to kind of see her like that. And Alicia is exactly, she's tough. Like, that's one of the reasons why Ben gets so enamored by her, is that she's as Elizabeth Olsen said, she's a tough broad. So like, I really would love to see her in that role. So yeah, let me know what you think, man. What role do you think she's playing? Stuff like that. And yeah, let's just go on to the next, bro. The Nova Disney Plus series is being described as an ensemble piece with shades of Trek and Battlestar Galactica. This is Mark Cassidy comic book movie. We got our first confirmation that Marvel Studios was planning to introduce Nova to the Marvel Cinematic Universe back in 2022. And since then, there have been conflicting reports about which medium the project was being developed for. The Marvel Studios head of streaming, television, and animation, Brad Winterbaum, has confirmed that Nova is indeed headed to the small screen and shared some intriguing updates on the studio's plans for the space-faring hero. Or should that be heroes? While speaking to the Phase Zero podcast, Winterbaum describes the Nova series as an amazing ensemble piece with a great cast of characters, possibly indicating that both Richard Rider and Sam Alexander will feature. He also says that the show will have shades of both Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. Winterbaum also confirmed that more special presentations are on the way, though he didn't reveal any more details. Nova Corps was originally introduced in the Guardians of the Galaxy, which led to speculation that Rider would eventually find his way into the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. James Gunn showed little interest in the character, but the Nova series will most likely spin out from Thanos decimating most of the Corps in the build-up to Infinity War. Here's what Feige had to say about Nova's MCU introduction back in 2021. Timing is relative, right? Said the Marvel Studios boss. I think I'd been talking about Doctor Strange 8 years before that movie came out. So immediate potential is relative, but clearly we are not shying away from the cosmic end of storytelling, right in the sweet spot of the Nova Corps and Nova himself. Sam Alexander first appeared in the Marvel Point One one-shot back in November of 2011 before going on to lead his own series beginning in February of 2013. The Arizona teen inherited the Nova helmet from his missing father and officially took up the mantle after being trained by Guardians of the Galaxy members Gamora and Rocket Raccoon. Previous rumors have clamored that Ryan Gosling might be up for the lead role in Nova. He is believed to have had discussions with Feige about potentially boarding the MCU with a Disney Plus series. Might be a stretch. And we've also heard that a young lead is being sought. If accurate, this would further suggest that Rider and Alexander would appear. Okay, so a couple things. First of all, this genuinely feels like this is Lanterns again in Marvel, except it sounds like Lanterns is probably maybe a little darker if they're using, you know, True Detective as your comp. Whereas the comps seem to be Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica. Doesn't mean you don't have potentially serious or dark moments, but not as dark as True Detective at its nature. That being said, again, I don't love the idea of Ryan Gosling, not because he's not talented, but the same thing I said. This is something that could launch somebody. So if you have an actor who is kind of around that same age, and this is the role that could really put them over the edge, I would really love to see that. But if it's a situation where, like, Ryan's character, if he is playing Rider, is really more of a support, is really more of like the Dumbledore, you know, the whatever kind of a situation, you know, Whistler or whatever, to be like the guide to the younger hero, and like genuinely takes a little bit of a backseat, cool. I just, again, everything I've heard about Lanterns, it's Hal and John are like on equal playing field. It's very Seven, what's in the box type shit. You know what I mean? And so that's not what this sounds like. This sounds like maybe it is, well, I don't know. We don't have any more information than that. I'm just making a guess here. So with that, I don't necessarily want to see Ryan Gosling, not because he's not talented. I just want other people to get an opportunity to shine, to become a household name, to make the Skrilla. That's just where I'm at. Again, if at the end of the day, I'll say this about all of these roles. At the end of the day, the absolute best person for the role is Ryan Gosling, is Josh Brolin, is whoever actor that's already done a million things, similar to what we just got with Robert Downey Jr. supposedly, then fine. I'm not going to argue with you about it. I just like to see people get that shot. That's just how I feel about it, especially if you haven't done a superhero thing. Now, to my knowledge, I don't remember Ryan ever doing a superhero film, so I would give a little more credence to, you know what, if you want to, dude, fine. But that's just where I'm at. I want to know where you're at. You let me know down in the comments. Let's pop off to this next story. Legendary performer, hype man, party man, Fatman Scoop has died at 53 after collapsing on stage. Now, this is the story that TMZ put out. Isaac Freeman III, aka Fatman Scoop, has died after the iconic musician collapsed on stage Friday night. Scoop's tour manager broke the sad news when he said of the Grammy winner, "I'm honestly lost for words. Took me all over the world and had me performing alongside you on some of the biggest and greatest stages on the planet. The things you taught me have truly made me the man I am today. Thank you so much. I love you." Reminisce Festival, where Fatman Scoop was set to perform on September 7th, also posted to Instagram saying, "It is with the deepest sorrow that we are at Reminisce, having received the devastating news of the tragic passing of the legendary Isaac Freeman III, known to us all as Fatman Scoop. This loss has left us all heartbroken." Not long after, his family released a statement which said in part, "He was the laughter in our lives, a constant source of support, unwavering strength and courage." TMZ broke the news that the legendary hip-hop hype man was performing at Town Center Park in Hamden, Connecticut when he suffered a medical emergency. A horrifying video showed Scoop collapse mid-performance. The icon worked with a ton of big names in hip-hop over the years, collabing with the likes of Missy Elliott, Mariah Carey, and Jermaine Dupri, just to name a few. Following his collapse and being rushed to the hospital, Hamden Mayor Lauren Garrett asked fans to please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. TMZ is out to Snoop's agent for more information, but hasn't anything back quite yet. He was 53 years old. Look, anybody that's on here that's a millennial, man, you've heard Fatman Scoop. You may be like, I don't know why I know that name. I guarantee you've heard me. You got a $50 bill, put your hands up. You got a $20 bill, put your hands up. Like all of that, I guarantee you've heard Fatman Scoop before. An absolute icon. I'm not going to show the video. It's still circulating around the internet. If you want to go watch it, that's up to you. The one thing I will say watching it that made me sad, but I thought was kind of iconic. I mean, you could kind of see that he was losing his breath. That something was, you think to yourself, oh, maybe you're just a little tired. But the last thing he said before he collapsed is like, if you're here to party, let me hear y'all yell, which was great. But then the fall was just horrible, man. And I think it's just another reminder. The older we get, you just get the reminder that you have to tell the people you love that you love them. You got to appreciate the art and the folks and the relationships that are in your life, because nothing is here forever. So you have to appreciate the stuff that's here, man. So if you haven't hugged your loved ones today, your pets, call your mama, call your daddy, your uncles, your aunties, your little nephew, your friend that you haven't spoken to in a long time. Check in on folks, because you never know. So this is just a big rest in peace to Fatman Scoop. Thank you for entertaining us and keeping us hype all these years. May you rest in power, brother. And let's get on to our last story. All right. So we've got a trio of stories real quick from the NFL. Trent Williams has signed a deal ending his holdout. Reddick is still in a holdout as they get ready for Monday Night Football. And a wide receiver for the Niners was actually shot at a robbery. So first with Trent Williams, his holdout is over. The San Francisco 49ers are finalizing a new deal with Williams, according to his agency, ending their prolonged contract dispute and putting the star left tackle in position to play in next Monday's season opener against the Jets. Social media posts from Williams' brothers showed the 11-time Pro Bowler returning to the Bay Area on Monday, and his agency, Elite Loyalty Sports, confirmed Tuesday on social media that the 3-time All-Pro was headed to San Francisco to finalize a new deal with the Niners. Williams, 36, has held out of San Francisco's entire training camp, accruing more than $4 million in fines for missing every practice and 3 preseason games. Williams, who spent his time away from the team at home in Houston preparing for the season, had been owed $20.05 million this season under the 6-year, $138.1 million deal he signed in 2021. The Niners left Williams off their 53-man roster last week, keeping him on the reserve, did not report list. San Francisco created over $5.4 million in salary cap space Tuesday, according to ESPN Field Yates, by restructuring the contract of defensive lineman Malik Collins. This will be the second time the Niners have reconfigured a deal for a star player this offseason. They did a similar deal with Christian McCaffrey in June that gave the running back significant guarantees and bolstered his average annual pay. The ramped-up negotiations between Williams and the Niners came less than a week after the defending NFC champs resolved a similar contract dispute with star receiver Brandon Ayuk, who signed a 4-year, $120 million deal that includes $76 million guaranteed. For their part, the Niners have never seemed overly worried about Williams' holdout. Kyle Shanahan offered no concern about Williams last month. I think we'll be able to work it out, and work it out they have. While they consider the NFL's top offensive lineman, Williams has an average annual salary that ranks 6th amongst tackles after Tristan Wirfs in Tampa Bay, Pino Swell in Detroit, and Christian Darrisaw in Minnesota, who all signed big money deals this offseason. Blah, blah, blah. Best pass blocker tackle in the NFL in 2023 with 95.8 pass block win rate. Niners averaged 6.05 yards per carry when rushing behind Williams on the left side this season, this past season. Yeah, okay, that's the important part. Move on from that. Hasson, now for someone that hasn't been paid yet, and it doesn't make any sense, Hasson Reddick with the New York Jets, the edge rusher, is the NFL's last remaining holdout, and his coach is trying not to sweat his absence. I mean, it's like finding change in the couch, I guess, right? Robert Saleh said Tuesday with a laugh, agreeing with the premise that having Reddick report at this point would be like a bonus. Continuing, Saleh said, but no, he's a special football player, and when he eventually gets here, he's going to help us. It's an unusual holdout because Reddick, acquired in a March 29th trade from the Philadelphia Eagles, hasn't set foot in the Jets facility since April 1st, the day of his news conference and physical. He skipped all offseason activities and all training camp practices, accumulating $2.05 million in mandatory fines for missing training camp. He also forfeited a $250,000 offseason workout bonus and incurred other discretionary fines. Since the Jets have yet to see Reddick in a football setting, they can try to promote the idea that he's a luxury, but they did give up a 2026 conditional third-round pick to acquire his contract, which is due to pay him a non-guaranteed $14.25 million in 2024. So they obviously have big plans for him. On August 12th, Reddick, who wants a contract extension that would make him one of the highest paid edge rushers, requested a trade. The Jets have said that they have no plans to trade him, and general manager Joe Douglas said last week that they won't negotiate Reddick with Reddick's agent until Reddick reports to the team. Jets opened the season against the 49ers, who we spoke about previously on the Monday Night Football. They still have 3 full practices before the game. Saleh won't rule out Reddick out of that game quite yet. Okay. And then this last story. This one is kind of crazy and a little sad, but hopeful. The 49ers have placed receiver Rickey Pearsall on the reserve non-football injury list Monday, 2 days after he was shot in the chest during a robbery attempt in San Francisco. The NFL designation, the NFI designation means Pearsall must miss at least the first 4 games of his rookie season as he recovers. San Francisco signed offensive tackle Brandon Parker to a 1-year deal to fill the open spot on the 53-man roster. Pearsall was shot near San Francisco's Union Square on Saturday afternoon after a 17-year-old male from Tracy, California attempted to rob him, resulting in a struggle between the two, according to San Francisco Police Department. Both Pearsall and the suspect were shot during the struggle. After Pearsall was taken to San Francisco General Hospital, police announced that he was in stable condition. He was upgraded to a fair condition Sunday morning and released from the hospital soon after, less than 24 hours following the shooting. His mother posted on social media Sunday morning that her son had been shot in the chest with a bullet exiting his back and missing vital organs before the shooting. Pearsall had participated in an autograph signing at an event center before going to Union Square, ABC 7 in San Francisco reported. And according to police, Pearsall was walking alone shortly after at 3:30 p.m. local time Saturday when the suspect attempted to rob him with a gun at the corner of Gary and Grant Streets. San Francisco Fire Department said a 911 call came at 3:38. And they arrived soon thereafter. Police chief says the suspect was arrested right after the shooting. Initial investigation indicated he acted alone, as far as we know, and they are scouring many surveillance cameras to get more information. Yeah, that is all three of those stories. So let's talk about it. First off, let's talk about Pearsall, man. I mean, I can't think of a more devastating situation. It's your rookie year. You were ready to kick your career off and things like that, only for you to be shot during a botched robbery. One, I'm just really happy that he's okay. You know, I'm so happy that he's going to be fine, and that it sounds like he will most likely only miss 4 games. But that's absolutely crazy. And you know, 0. On top of that, I didn't even notice this. So Pearsall was, I guess, the 31st pick in the draft, which is crazy. I didn't realize he was in the first round. That's absolutely wild. I just think that we're in a state that there's a lot of just bad actors, period, in the world, like if we're just being real. But it feels like we're getting to a state where people are getting really desperate, and you're seeing more scenarios like this. Ironically, crime is down. If you look at the numbers, it is down, but it doesn't mean that people aren't doing wild things. And I am just very grateful that Pearsall is okay. I hope this young man that did try and rob him, you know, faces very swift justice, man. Like, I get it, he's a kid, but you're damn near an adult, and you're robbing somebody at gunpoint. Like, as desperate one way or the other, man, you can't be doing that. That's absolutely wrong. You deserve as much jail time as you can get in that particular regard, you know, unless we find out this kid was being held hostage. I don't know if you've seen Black Mirror, the Shut Up and Dance episode, unless it's something like that. And all of those people had some really dark skeletons in their closets. That's a whole other conversation. You can watch that. But either way, I'm glad the kid's all right. I hope he has an incredible NFL career, and you rest up, man, for sure. Now, as far as Trent Williams and Hasson Reddick, I think it's ridiculous that these teams didn't pay people. It shouldn't have taken that long to get to Brandon Ayuk to get paid. He had an all-pro season. That's kind of crazy. I don't think that he's as good as, say, a Justin Jefferson, a CeeDee Lamb, a Tyreek Hill, an Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he's like right there. If they're the top 4, he's like somewhere in that like 5 to 7 range, like, you know. And there might be some more that I'm missing off the top of my head. I forgot Jamar Chase. You know, there's your top 5 in my opinion, but he's definitely in that. If that's the S tier, he's definitely in that A tier receivers that deserved his bread, man. A lot of people are saying that maybe he just held out so he could skip training camp. I don't think that's what's going on with Trent Williams. If none of this money was guaranteed, I don't blame him, especially as you're getting older and injuries, you watch them happen left and right. You never know what could go on. And he was a little hurt last year as well. Like, he was out a number of games. So, like, I don't blame him for being like, give me my last check, because it sounds like at 36, this is probably his last contract. Give me my bread, the best lineman in the league, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, the two that pop out of my mind are him and Zach Martin as far as, like, those dudes. So he deserved his bread and got it. I still don't understand what the Jets think the fuck they're doing. Excuse my language, not really. But Reddick was not going to play for the Eagles because they wouldn't pay him. So in what world were you going to trade for him? And he's just going to be like, oh, yeah, nah, cool. You know what? I don't need no money. I just didn't want to be at the Eagles anymore, a team that has a way better shot of actually making it to the Super Bowl than the New York Jets. Like, what crack are you smoking? Pay the man his damn money. You would think that the Jets would be tired of the drama. You went and got Aaron Rodgers, which is already going to be a loaded situation as is, but you did it because of his talent on the field, and that kind of fell apart last year. But now you've got him healthy back. You got Breece Hall. You got Garrett Wilson, both offensive star weapons up there. You need him on the defensive end of the ball to help take your defense, which is very, very good, to a championship level. You need every weapon you have available, so just pay the money. Figure it out. I don't know where the Niners keep getting all this damn money from. It feels like they got a Scrooge McDuckie and vault of money somewhere that they keep finding to pay all these damn players and don't ever have to cut anybody. But clearly, if the Niners can figure it out, you can too. Or maybe you're just that bad at GMs. I don't know. But I want to know what y'all think about all three of these stories of these three players. What do you think about Trent Williams' contract? What do you think about Reddick and the fact that he hasn't been paid? And let me know your thoughts on what was going on with Pearsall, man. And with all that, that is going to wrap up this episode of the Blerd Breakdown. Thank you so much to everybody that was here this entire time. If you haven't already, man, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and throw a like on this video. Comment on whatever stories really spoke out to you. I'm going to put this out now, and then I'm going to chop it up into clips that will come out. I'm going to start making those clips all come out the same day instead of spacing them out. I'm realizing that that might be a little bit easier for people to digest. But either way, I genuinely want to thank you. I'm going to have another one of these later this week. And then, if any other trailers and stuff come out, again, check out the Smile 2 trailer reaction that I did. But other than that, that's going to do it, y'all. So y'all have a good rest of your evening. I will see you on the next one, man. Peace.